Hey everyone, this is MusicTechHelpGuy. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get some really big, massive sidechain ducking effects on whole groups of instruments, chords, bass, whatever it may be. So this is kind of just an off-the-cuff sound design video in Logic, so I hope you enjoy it. I know I've covered sidechain ducking in several other videos, so I was just playing around with an idea this morning, and I was like, you know what, this might be something they want to learn about. So let me just break down what I have here so far. I just have this track labeled "Make a Hit." It's actually an instrument from my Divine Waves collection. It's just a bunch of chords here. And then under that, I have bass. I'm just using the stock setting from the retro synth. I'm gonna pull this down an octave. So those are my two synths. You could have multiple instruments. You could have even more than two, all layered and stacked on top of each other. I'll show you how to work with that in just a bit. And then I've got my beat here. It's just, I'm using the Sitala free drum sampler that I did a video on earlier, and the beat just sounds like this. I've just separated the kick and hi-hat from the snare. You could also use it in multi-output mode to get the same effect. And the whole thing together sounds like this. So I'm going to show you two different ways to get this sort of big, massive sidechain ducking effect on the long chords up here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put all of my synthesizers and my bass in a summing stack. So again, I'm only doing this with two tracks, but you could have 4, 5, 10, whatever you want. Just put all of those instruments that are grouped together in a track stack. So you go up to Track, Create Track Stack, or press Shift-Command-D, and then choose a summing stack. So I'm just going to call this Synth Stack. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a compressor to this that's going to duck down the signal. I'm just going to set this aside for now. What I need to do now is I need to create a sidechain source. I need to determine what I actually want the ducking effect to be controlled by. Typically, it's kick drum. That's the really sort of stereotypical thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead and take my kick and hi-hat track, duplicate it, and then I'm going to call this sidechain source. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate the beat onto this track. Let me solo that. And what I'm going to do is cut out the notes that I don't want to be part of the sidechain ducking source. Obviously, none of the hi-hats I want in there. And then I'll go into my compressor, and I'll select the sidechain source track as a sidechain input source. So again, if you're not familiar with the stereotypical sidechain ducking effect, what happens is the volume of whatever is on the sidechain source track is going to apply compression. It's going to be a source to apply compression to the synth stack where I've placed the compressor. So I typically like to turn the auto gain off, and then I play around with the threshold and ratio controls. So you can hear that the compression's only being applied where the kick drum is playing. Now, you may not necessarily want the actual drum beat to affect where the compression is applied. You may want it to be just at certain places. So what I can do is go back in here with the kick drum, and I can apply this to just the areas where I want it. So right here, I probably don't want that one there. Really, the rhythm of the synths is something more like this. So now this kick drum is determining where the compression is hitting. So the cool thing about using sidechain inputs is you can actually mute the original source, and the effect will still be there. And then you can adjust the threshold and ratio to determine how much of that ducking effect you want. Now, I may not necessarily want every single chord to be ducked. So I'm thinking this one and this one, I'll take out those notes. And maybe I don't want these ones either. So it gets the synths out of the way, it gives the drums more impact at those points. So I may choose to throw something else in there to sort of fill that space. So for example, I've added just a couple notes here at those points where the sidechain ducking is taking place. I'm just using the stock sculpture setting with some really heavy reverb with Valhalla Shimmer. And this is helping to sort of create space for this synth ambience, but also it's sort of serving a sound design element as well. Or I could make these chords and have a little bit of harmony going on. Now, another way to do this is instead of using the compressor for a sidechain ducking effect, you could use a plugin like the Sweeper from Denise Audio. I did a review for this yesterday. What the Sweeper is it's a dynamic filter sweep. And what you can do is you can select a track as a sidechain source, just like I did for the compressor. So I'll choose the sidechain source, that kick drum that's on beats 1 and 3. And then what I'll do is turn on the sidechain input, and we'll hear the effect that this has on the sweeper. So the filter is closing. It's open where the kick hits on the sidechain source track. Let me just unmute that so you can hear that. So when the kick hits, it opens up. If I want to reverse that, I can just hit the flip button here. So this is another way to duck it with a filter sweep rather than with just purely volume. Or you could use both of them in conjunction. So I can throw the sweeper on there first, put the compressor second, so that I'm going to use that same sidechain input source. And you can use the same source for 2 different plugins or multiple different plugins. Maybe I'll tame down the threshold and ratio a bit, but now it's going to duck the volume and filter the signal. And then I can mute the sidechain source again. And let's listen to what this sounds like with everything in. you go. That's how you can use sidechain ducking a couple different ways for a creative effect to affect a group of synthesizers and give it sort of this big, sort of massive ducking effect. And like I said, you could put as many instruments as you want in this synth stack and have them all be affected by that sidechain ducking effect. And keep in mind, the sidechain source doesn't have to be a kick drum. It could be anything. Just remember, with sidechain sources, when you mute them like this, the only thing that really matters is the volume of the source. So if you put a different source in there that has a different envelope, it's going to make the ducking effect react in a different way. So you can get some different cool and interesting effects that way. So I hope you guys enjoy these sort of off-the-cuff sound design videos. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. You can also check me out on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if you'd like to make a monthly contribution to the channel, you can also check me out at patreon.com/MusicTechHelpGuy. Thanks for the support, and thanks for watching.